Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is adjust the brakes. And the brakes are Allen, and you can see I've got a 5mm Allen here, so I'll pull that out. And there are two 5mm Allen bolts that hold the caliper on. And if I twist the front wheel, or turn it, you can hear how it's rubbing against the brake pads. So what I'm going to do is pop those in there. There's one Allen bolt on the top of the caliper and one more on the bottom of the caliper. So I'll loosen those up a bit, and there's one more right down here. So loosen that up, and then allow the wheel to rotate freely. So the caliper, as you can see, you can move that around pretty freely on the pad. Now, because these are mechanical disc brakes, you've got the cable that's actually pulling on them, and you can see when the cable closes, it holds, only one side closes. The other side, the inboard side, stays stationary. The outboard side closes in on there. And so what I tend to do, just to line things up, is I will grab the brake handle and I'll pull that, and that kind of lines up the caliper. So it's making the pads and the caliper line up parallel to the disc. And then I'll tighten things down just a bit. And I won't tighten it down all the way, but at that point I can then release it, and things tend to line up pretty well. So at that point, close that back down, tighten it up a little bit more, and it's just a nice way of self-centering the caliper on these things, so it's actually a really easy adjustment. And right now I've still got the brakes closed, or rather I'm squeezing on the brake handle as I'm doing this. So now I can let go, and the Allen bolts, the 5mm Allen bolts, are now tightened down pretty tightly. But you can hear that as the wheel spins, there's still a place where you've got the disc rubbing on the pad. So what I'll do is I'll spin that around, and actually stop there for a bit. So it's actually really close tolerances. Once you get this thing rolling, you won't hear it, but that's how you adjust the caliper. Quick and easy adjust. What I'll end up doing here is I will take the other 5mm, and I will, or the same, rather, I'll use the same 5mm, and then I will loosen up this Allen bolt, and I'll bring the brake in here a little bit, just to take up some of that slack, and then I'll tighten it back down on the cable. And I will begin to back it off. So as I spin this, I'm going to shut up for a second so you can actually hear the sound of the caliper rubbing on the disc, and then I'll back it off until that rubbing stops. So you hear it? And right about there it stops. So that's where I'll tighten it up. And because these are kind of sensitive, I'm going to make sure that this is tightened up, which it is not. So I'll tighten this down a little bit more. And so this one was still a little loose from the factory, which is, there's a spring inside of here that causes it to retract. So at that point I will loosen this back up and begin to move that up until I hear it touching the disc as it spins, and then I'll just back it off right to the point where it stops touching, and then I'll tighten it down on the brake cable. And that ought to do it right about there. And then you can make micro adjustments with rotating your cable tension there. And that's it for adjusting the brakes. That works the same for the front and the rear, and you'll be able to get a lot more stopping power that way, and adjust things and keep things quiet so you're not pedaling harder than you should because your brakes are on. All right, enjoy.